Welcome to the deep dive. We're excited you're here. Today we're tackling something you've probably seen blowing up online, these hair growth serums, making some very big promises. Okay, let's unpack this specific one. It's called Eloura, or sometimes you might see it as Eloura. Their whole pitch relies on these really dramatic before and afters,
hmm
and testimonials claiming visible results in just 2 weeks. Plus, less hair fall in only 7 days, and even new baby hairs popping up where apparently growth had stopped. It sounds amazing, frankly.
It does sound amazing. And what's fascinating, or maybe concerning, is how often these claims start with a grain of truth, like a genuinely useful ingredient. But then they completely twist the timeline. They leverage that real ingredient to create expectations that are, well, just not realistic for them.
Exactly. So with claims this bold, you'd think there's some revolutionary new molecule involved, right?
Yeah.
But we looked into it. The main ingredient they're highlighting, it's rosemary oil.
Uh-huh. Rosemary oil.
And that's where things get really interesting and maybe a little problematic.
Indeed. Because rosemary oil isn't just hype, it actually does have some solid science behind it. There was a key study back in 2015. It found rosemary oil was basically as effective as minoxidil, the standard over-the-counter stuff. But, and this is the crucial part, that was after 6 months of using it consistently.
Okay, hold on. Because that same study you just mentioned, the one backing rosemary oil,
Yeah.
it specifically showed no significant difference at the 3-month mark. None.
That's correct. No change at 3 months.
So
Right.
how does a company get from no change at 3 months in a clinical study to claiming visible results in 2 weeks or less hair fall in 7 days? It just doesn't track. It's like hair growth follows its own biological rules.
Yeah.
Marketing can't speed that up.
You're absolutely right. The disconnect is, well, it's huge. Hair follicles simply don't work that fast. They have cycles. And yes, they also list other things like copper peptides and biotin. Both are linked to hair health, generally speaking. But biotin, for instance, most people aren't actually deficient. So slapping it on your scalp or taking a pill isn't likely to trigger new growth unless you are deficient, which is rare. And things like copper peptides, while potentially helpful for scalp health, they can't fundamentally reverse genetic hair loss patterns, which really makes you question that figure they quote. Something like 95% of users reported reduced hair fall after 14 days.
Right, that 95% number. It sounds incredibly convincing at first glance. Wow, 95%.
Mm.
Until you dig a little and realize those are just self-reported testimonials on their website. They're not results from controlled clinical trials.
Exactly.
And that's a massive difference, isn't it? Anecdotes aren't data, not in a scientific sense. It's something for you, the listener, to really keep in mind.
Precisely. And when you put it all together, you see a pattern emerging, don't you? You've got these timeline promises that seem to defy basic biology. You've got an apparent lack of published clinical trials for their specific formulation making these claims. And then you have testimonials that sometimes can sound quite similar to each other. It's quite the red flag parade.
Red flag parade, I like that. It definitely feels like that. So if the quick results are questionable from a scientific standpoint, what are you actually paying for? Because this serum isn't cheap.
Mm-hmm.
It's about $30 a bottle
Mm-hmm. It's a premium price.
for promises that seem shaky.
It is. And here's the practical side for you. You could buy pure cosmetic-grade rosemary oil for much, much less. You'd need to dilute it properly with a carrier oil, of course, but it's doable. But the reality check remains. Even if you do that, even if rosemary oil might offer some benefit for you, you're still looking at needing at least 6 months of consistent use, maybe longer. And you absolutely need realistic expectations, not, hoping for a miracle in 2 weeks just because the bottle suggests it.
Right. So bringing this all together, what's the takeaway for you? Trying to figure out what works and what's just noise. This deep dive really shows a classic example, I think. Potentially legitimate ingredients,
Yeah.
but wrapped up in completely unrealistic fantasy timelines driven by marketing.
And that forces an important question, doesn't it? When you buy a product like this, are you really buying hope in a bottle? Or are you investing your money and, just as importantly, your time in something that has actual scientifically supported evidence for hair growth on a realistic schedule?
Yeah. Our verdict here, Eloura, seems to be selling your hope much more than guaranteed rapid hair growth. Honestly, you might be better off saving your money. If you're interested in rosemary oil specifically, consider buying the pure ingredient. But you have to commit to that realistic, much longer timeline, 6 months plus, and see what happens without the hype.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other miracle products out there might be doing the same thing, selling you a dream based on a tiny kernel of scientific truth about an ingredient, but blowing the results and the timeline way out of proportion? Something to think about.